וכי נפשי אס השם. Today in page 46 we're going to continue the Laws of Muktzha, the halakhot of setting aside. Also we're going to learn Taltul, the several halakhot in regard to caring, and then if time allows we're going to elaborate on the issue of Migo. So we are at the top of the page 46. But for those who just came in, let's go over several definitions so we all will be at the same page. Definition number one, Muktzah. Does everyone know what is Muktzah? Muktzah meaning something that's set aside. What's the Muktzah? Did we have anything in the Torah that tell us what we forbidden for Muktzah? No, there's nothing written in the Torah. What the rabbis have, they put a fence, such as they are concerned that a person, for example, by carrying something such as a candlestick or candelabrum, he will extinguish it, and that's biblical because it's called kibui. It's one of the 39 melachot, or can be many other, such as building something, putting soon pieces of the candle burn that was made in such a way that you can resemble it and make it as a ready product. So all of the idea of Muktzah, they put a fence. Another important concept we need to bear in our mind is the Migo. Migo meaning, in this sense, since something is set aside before Shabbat, Meego Datktzai Atktzai, meaning you designating something that it's going to be muktzeh, it's going to set aside on the twilight time before Shabbat, Daatקצאי lekule yorma. So it turned to be muktzeh, it's set aside for the entire Shabbat. That's the opinion of Rav Yehuda. Now we have to remember that Rabbi Shimon in some area disagree with him. Rabbi Shimon allow, for example, a candle that is no longer in a state of burning, he allowed to carry that. He is not hold that Migo. But this concept of Migo is very important, and the concept of Muktzeh, set aside, should be clear to us before we go to this sugya, to this discussion. So what we said El Amar Abaye Beshel Chuliyot. Here in the Machloket, we said yesterday, between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, the Machloket was, if we have a candelabrum that it's made in such a way, some allow and some not, the sages forbade to carry it because they are concerned that in those days, in the Mishnah time, they made the candelabrum in such a way that it was pieces. So imagine, like the other day, you see the big menorah. So that's old-fashioned menorah. It's pieces. In other words, you see it in a box, and then you need to put together and resemble those pieces in order to use that menorah. In the Mishnah time, they used to have this big candelabrum, and they put it together. Now, what's the fear? You tell me. What's the gzera here? What's the problem? What's the problem to carry it on Shabbat? No, help me.
Well, one thing was, if it's a candelabra that was used for a Shabbat light, it's muktzah. You'd set it aside.
Why it's a muktzah? In there, it's this.
Because you had said it was specifically for Shabbat. You'd set it aside for Shabbat.
Okay. Now we're talking about situation that it's extinguished. Let's say it's no longer used for lighting candles. What's the problem?
But it was set aside for lighting candles before Shabbat.
That's one concern we said before. But now let's talk about situation that even it's before Shabbat. You set something aside. Now you have those pieces of the candelabrum that you did not put together. Now it's already Shabbat. Can you reassemble them?
Reassemble them?
Reassemble them?
No.
Why?
Because you didn't
You're right,
set,
Gilbert.
because you didn't set the other parts in apart to do it on this.
Plus-
on that
And what's the
time.
problem to do it on Shabbat?
Well, assembling something is a malacha we can't do. It's
it's
not
a
something
work.
we're allowed
Excellent.
to
What
do.
type of melacha? Okay, so
assembling,
one of
building
the
something. I'm not sure
okay,
what the
so
what the
one
is,
of
but-
the 39 melachot is called makeh bapatish. Makeh bapatish meaning, in a literal sense, it's like you do some job and then you take the hammer, boom, you put, and that's a completion of work.
So
Okay?
finishing it,
Finishing it.
right.
Now, what
But isn't there a malacha against building? But
Yes, that's boneh, but here it's not a boneh. Here is the issue here.
Was
You
that
have-
only a structure like a shelter of
No,
some sort?
no,
But it could
no,
be putting
no.
anything together,
Can be
right?
Anything together. But
But
in
why is this not that?
Because here it's already pieces that's ready made. Okay.
So assembling something is not the same as building something.
In this area, yes. In this area, yes, because it's a very good point. Because in this area, what happened is, if someone put together, it's called harkavat kli. You take something that's already made, the pieces, and you just assembling them and putting them together. That's called makeh bapatish, because that's basically you are completing a work. You're doing a final touch in order to make it ready.
Now, if you assemble all but the last little piece, so you don't
It's-
actually complete it.
But that's some rabbis who hold that that's involved with building.
Okay, because that's what I was going to say. For example we have is like a sukkah, like we have here, which is all prefab pieces ready to be just put together. So if you put it all together except for the last part, like maybe you don't put the roof on.
It's still considering one of the melachot, yes.
Right.
But here we talk specifically about makeh bapatish. So Abaye said that Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan hold in a situation that the candelabrum, it's made out of chuliyot, which means pieces, and you
Right.
need to put them together. Ihachi. So the Gemara asks, if that's the case, Mai Ta'ama de Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish de Shari. So how come Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish said earlier what? He said that you can carry a light menorah, right? Because this fear that maybe he's going to put together the menorah apply also to what? To a light menorah. It's not only to a heavy, it's also to a light menorah. Clear? Okay. So they said, my chuliyot, what we meant by saying candelabrum that made out of chuliyot, of the collective pieces, he said, ke'ein chuliyot, the itbei chidkei. It's not really a pieces, it's basically one piece that it looks like,
It has sections.
excellent, it has a section. So what's the issue if you have, it looks like it's
It's a perception issue,
Oh.
which is apparently a big issue for the Rabbonim.
right, right,
I mean, they don't want to give the idea that someone can then
correct.
assemble one.
Correct. So when it's come to the perception issues, the rabbis were afraid that therefore people will carry even candelabrum that really made out of separate pieces, and then this is the machloket, a disputation between Rabbi Yochanan and Reish Lakish. What exactly is the prohibition with the candelabrum that made out of assembled pieces, or
One thing-
looks like assembled
I
pieces?
still don't quite understand, though. It seems to me that once it was, this is a candelabra you're using for Shabbat lights, correct? Or could it be, are we talking about just any candelabra?
What's the difference? Let's trace back.
Well, just the
Before we
reason
go
I say
further,
that is because
is any different in all these type of melachot between Shabbat and festivals and Yom Tov?
yes, there is some
Only
difference.
one area.
Right.
What's the area? Pikuach nefesh. Pikuach nefesh, if you need to save life, or here, in order to feed someone, so on Yantiv, on festival, you allow to go ahead and you made, for example, food.
Cook food.
Right,
yeah.
etc.
I understand that, but what I'm saying...
But other melachot, there is no difference between
I understand, but what I'm saying with a candelabra, if it's a candelabra used for the Shabbat lights.
Okay.
Okay, so it's that specifically, you put candles in it, 2 or more candles, and those are your Shabbat lights.
For example.
So, okay, so you light them on Shabbat, and then they extinguish, the candles
before
burn out
Shabbat.
eventually. Just before, at candle lighting time, and they extinguish before, 3-4 hours later.
Okay.
So the question then is, isn't that then
Muktzah because it was set aside for Shabbat? You can't do anything with that candelabra afterwards?
Do you remember, day before yesterday? It's a good question. We said that according to those who hold Migo, it's forbidden, and according to Rabbi Shimon, is not hold the Migo, is allowed. You remember the concept of Muktzah Mechamat Mi'us?
With the Rabbi Shimon, so it was...
Yeah,
okay.
wait. You remember the concept of Muktzah Mechamat Mi'us? Mi'us meaning that it's disgusting, the oil, whatever the oil left. So Rabbi Yehuda hold, for example, that type of Muktzah Mechamat Mi'us. So therefore you have no use, you shouldn't carry it, it's already Muktzah.
Right.
Rabbi Shimon doesn't hold that Migo. Okay, so here we said, so what we learn, Hilkach. And therefore, Chuliyot, a candelabra that made out of assembled pieces, right, that put together pieces, Ben Gdola, Ben Ktana, Asur letaltela. Regardless the side, you cannot carry it. Why? Because the fear is that maybe a person going to assemble it together. Gdola, if it's large one, Name de'it beichidke. Even the one large one that have some holes, so therefore everyone say that you cannot use it. Gzera atu gdola dechuliyot. They put a decree that maybe a large candelabra, the large one that made out of pieces. So Rashi said, because usually a large candelabra made it out of assembled pieces, right?
Yep.
Assembled pieces. So there forbids also a large candelabra that they have charitzim, that they have some holes. Why? People may mix up the two. Tosfot here elaborated. He said that there's a different of use of that candelabra. But here the Gemara said ki pligei. What's the real machloket between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan? Bektana de'it ba'chidkei.
The small one.
You have the small one, yet the small one has those holes.
Or grooves. They say grooves is what they...
Grooves.
Yeah, they're
grooves.
Yeah, so...
Mar Savar. Who is Mar?
Rabbi, right?
Rabbi Yochanan.
Rabbi Yochanan.
Rabbi Yochanan hold Gazrinan, which means we put a decree even on the small one. Even usually the small one you do not made out of assembled pieces. Umar, the other one is Reish Lakish. Umar Savar, Lo Gazrinan. We do not put a decree in that size of candelabra, and therefore you can carry it. Because usually people do not make a small candelabra out of assembled pieces, so someone will look, he will not mix between the two, and he understand Rashi said that when they carry only the large one that made out of pieces. Ritva said that the sages did not divide it in their decree, and they said that anything that have those grooves are forbidden to carry. Now we go back to the whole discussion over Muktzah.
So who does the halacha...
We don't
Rabbi
yet.
Yochanan, we don't know. Yet.
Remember, at the end of the shiur, we give the final answer.
Okay.
So now we go back to the point of Rabbi Yochanan in Muktzah. Umi amar Rabbi Yochanan hachi. Do you tell me that Rabbi Yochanan said in that way? V'amar Rabbi Yochanan halacha kistam mishnah, which means any place that the Rebbe mentioned just a general term of Mishnah without mentioning the source of the Mishnah. So it's basically meant to say, since he's the one who assembled the Mishnayot, halacha is according to that Mishnah, which means to him. Utnan, there is an important Mishnah in a Tractate Kelim in regards to Shida. You remember that we discussed yesterday the Tuma and Tahara and the Muchni and the wagon? So now we back to those points. We said Muchni Shela. Muchni in general, we said that there are several opinions what is Muchni, but for our discussion, we are speaking about the ancient wagon that carries wheels, and Muchni meaning wheel. So he said Muchni bizman shehi nishmetet, which means when you have an option to do what? To pull out the tire, to pull out the wheels, which means it can be easily detachable. Ein chibur la, we were not considering in a case of impurity or purity as part of the wagon. To refresh the mind of those who just came in, there is a concept in Tum'ain Tahara when you have a dead body, or in those days you have a person with discharge, etc. So anything that attach, they become a tameh, it's impure. So if you have a dead body on a wagon, so the wagon become tameh. Now the question is, those wheels that carry the wagon, since those wheels can be
removed,
those wheels are not considering part of the contagiousness from the dead body. And now, when you measure the wagon, he said, and soon you see how we juxtapose that to our discussion over candle burn. We said, ve'ein nimdedet ima, which means the muchni, the wheel, is not measured as a part of the wagon. Ve'ein matzelet ima be'oel hamet, which means if you consider that as a tent, as a cover for a dead body, that's not part of the assembly since it's detachable. Ve'ein gorerin ota b'Shabbat bizman sheyesh alea ma'ot. This wagon you cannot carry on Shabbat, even the place that you have a roof. Why? If there is money put there, you cannot carry it on Shabbat. So, what we understand for that? That the whole point of prohibition with this wheel, with that muchni, it's with one condition. And the condition is only if there's money there. But if there's no money on the wagon, you have no problem. Ha'ein alea ma'ot. If there is no money, sharia, you can go ahead and carry that wagon from one location to another. Ve'af al gav dahavu alea ben hashmashot. Even at the time of the twilight, it was money in that wagon. But now, you say that if it's no longer money, if a person took it out, or let's say if the thief come in and took the money, so you don't have that issue. So isn't that a contradiction to what we said earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because what we said earlier, that Rabbi Yochanan hold, that even, you remember the Migo, we said that since the candle burned in the time of the twilight, so that is become forbidden for the entire Shabbat. So if you tell me, the Ritva said, that the money was there at the time of twilight, so then the money even was taken, you can juxtapose to a candle. And you should say that that's the same. Answer, Amar Rabbi Zeira, Rabbi Zera said, תהא משנתנו שלא היה עליה מעות כל בין השמשות. We have to say that our Mishnah that say that if there is no money on the wagon, you can carry it. It applies that as long as you don't have money at the time of the twilight. So when the Mishnah said that you cannot move it or carry it on Shabbat when they have money there, it means that they have money when? In the twilight. Right? Because that become muktzah later on Shabbat. Right? But if there's no money there, so you have no issue. Now another thing we said here, so therefore we must say שלא לשבור דבריו של רבי יוחנן. We said that in order to make sure that his opinion is clear in every avenue, in every area, regardless. Another point in regard to muktzah, אמר רבי יהושע בן לוי.
Before we...
Yes.
It seems, reading this, it seems to imply that if there's no money and no corpse, it's
Yes.
permitted to drag a wagon.
If you have a eruv.
Only if, okay, so...
Yes.
It does, I mean, okay, it doesn't, I mean, it doesn't say
And
that,
by the
it
way,
doesn't imply that you're in an Eruv.
By the way, why do you need to drag the wagon?
Well, that's what I'm trying to understand, I mean, it seems to imply that it's okay to drag a wagon, so I mean, so for example...
It's not okay.
The example I give would be then, of course, you know, a baby carriage, then it would be okay to drag a baby carriage with a baby.
Okay, so again, in Shabbat, you're allowed to do certain things if you have to do those things, with certain conditions. So if it's a baby carriage, so you have to carry the baby. If you have an Eruv, that's fine.
Where do we get the piece about the Eruv? Because, I mean, it doesn't...
Not yet.
Okay, but because it doesn't say here an Eruv, and it seems to imply that it's okay to drag a wagon...
Because later we elaborate, it's a good point, later we elaborate, and we have a special tractate later, that dealing with all the preconditions in order to make things available on Shabbat.
Can we drag a wagon in a Carmelite?
What's the difference between Carmelite and Reshut Rabim?
Well, there are some differences. I mean, because it has some. I mean, it has some private domain.
Let's refresh
features.
our memories. On Shabbat, we cannot do all these type of indirect derivative melachot if it's not necessary for Shabbat itself. Number one, let's make it clear, right? We supposed to rest on Shabbat.
I agree, right.
Okay. When we have to do certain things, such as you mentioned earlier, you need to take the baby to the synagogue, or you need to carry the baby for some, and you need that little. So you have to have a precondition, which is the Eruv. Okay?
I understand, but I'm talking about, because I mean, a Carmelite does have some differences from Rishon Rabim.
Yes.
So that's why I'm wondering if that's one of the differences.
Again, the Carmelite, remember, if we refresh the memories, when we deal with Carmelite, is a certain category of Reshut Rabim, but have a certain location that it's subcategorized and become a different, a separate categories. In other words, exceeding the 4 amot, etc., the heights, etc.
Because I mean, well, reading in here what they said when they were describing a Carmelite, specifically in the Schottenstein, they described it as having some features of Reshut Rabim and some features of Reshut Yachid.
Correct.
So was the basis of my question is, you know, is that one of the features of Reshut Yachid, and that you can drag a wagon if you need to move something in Carmelite, which is apparently not.
No.
So, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Another important הלכה on מוקצה. So they said here, אמר רבי יהושע בן לוי, פעם אחת הלך רבי ליד יוספרה. Diospora is the name of a place.
Diaspora.
Diaspora.
Isn't that what, are they referring to a specific place or just
I don't
the
think
diaspora
so.
out
I
the
don't
world?
think so. I think it's the name of most probably a small village in Babylon. והורה במנורה כרבי שמעון בן נהר. So he rules in the candelabrum the same as Rabbi Shimon said in a candle. So they elaborate and they said, what's Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi meant? הורה במנורה כרבי שמעון בן נהר להיתר, או הורה במנורה לאיסורה, which means you're going to say that either he allowed to carry it when it's an old one. Remember what we said about the old one? That he can carry it, or he meant to say that he forbid the same as Rabbi Shimon. What did he say? That it's a special decree that if it's the assembled pieces, you cannot carry it. So they said, and the other thing is the two things, Rabbi Shimon bener le'tera, which means if it's the old one, we can carry it. So first you have to remember, what's the idea of the old one? We said the old one, when it's extinguished, there is a different category. You don't have those issues. It's a different category. Rabbi Shimon didn't hold that, but there is a different view of understanding it between the Tosfot and Rashi. What exactly the connection between the two? So Tosfot said that Rabbi hold two separate rulings. Number one, that when it's come to Candelabram, he tried to find a leniency, and it's come to an old candle also he tried to be lenient, or that the first one is to be stringent, which is applied to menorah, which is carry it the same as you carried other things, that it's not pieces, or the second one, it's more lenient in the sense that it's no longer have a lit there, it's not used. So they said, as a conclusion, it's teiku. What is the teiku? What is the teiku? Tishbi yetaretz kushiyot v'ibayot, which means it's therefore they stand unresolved. Unresolved in the GEMARA is something that we leave it open. We do not have a final decision. Now we have several cases of carry a candle that is no longer in use on Shabbat. Again, let's understand. You have a candle that was used for Shabbat, and now it's extinguished. So since it's extinguished, the question is, can I move it? For example, it's on my table, and I'm not comfortable with that candle. I want to take it out from a table and put it elsewhere.
But it's extinguished.
What? It's extinguished.
The flame is extinguished. Okay.
So they said, Rav Malkia ikla levei Rabbi Simlai, vetiltel shraga, veikpid Rabbi Simlai. Awesome. It was a story of Rav Malkia, that he went to the house of Rabbi Simlai, and he saw this candle burning, and most probably, I'm just adding it, that most probably it bothered him, either the smell, or he needs the spot, or whatever the reason is, and he moved the candle, and while moving, what happened? While he moved the candle, what happened to the candle? Extinguished.
Oh, so wait, it was still lit in this
Excellent.
situation. Okay, so I thought we were saying
So
it was an
Rabbi
unlit candle.
Simlai was unhappy with that. The ikpad meaning
sense.
he was angry, he was upset with that. Similar story. So what we derive from that? That basically muktzah, you remember we said earlier, muktzah is not a prohibition in the Torah. But the rabbis understand human behavior. That the minutes you allow people to carry even extinguished candle, guess what they're going to do? They're going to carry while it may happen that it's extinguished. And if it's extinguished, is one of the melachot that it's called mechabe. We're not allowed to extinguish fire on Shabbat if it's not the issue of saving life. Clear? Another story.
Well, just it seems reading this, it seems to imply that the candle had already gone out before he moved it. Just reading the additional text in here, it says,
I'm sorry, you are right.
Okay.
You are right, I didn't make it clear. The candles was on.
They were lit for Shabbat, so
For
they were set
Shabbat.
aside for Shabbat.
Set aside for Shabbat. And he came in before Shabbat. And he moved that candles. And that candle extinguished while he moved it.
Okay.
But since he moved it, now you cannot lit it.
I got a question, Rabbi.
Yes.
Since you say about saving light, is
Saving life.
Oh, life. Oh, okay.
Saving life, which means, always ask me those questions. If you need to save life of someone, then in certain situation you're allowed to extinguish fire.
Okay.
It just, when I read here, this the way they, and this is again from the Schottenstein, the way they translate to the English. It says, Rav Malkiah once visited the home of Rav Simlai, and while there he moved a lamp that had been lit at the onset of the Shabbat and had since gone out, which seems to imply that he lit it, it burned, through for, 3-4 hours or whatever the length was, and then went out, and then he went to move it on the Shabbos.
Possibility.
Okay, because that's...
The key point is that Rabbi Simlai was angry over what?
That he moved the...
Which means Rabbi Simlai disagreed with Rabbi Shimon with the whole Meego.
Okay.
Again, let's refresh our memory.
Understood.
Memory. Rabbi Shimon hold that you allow to carry it because it's not considering a muktzah mechamat mi'us. Rabbi Yehuda or others hold that since the oil that was burned there is no longer in use, it's muktzah mechamat mi'us and you cannot carry it.
It was set aside before Shabbat, and so you can't carry it. But the halakha accords with Rav Shimon, which says you can move it after.
You can move it out.
Right.
Now, again, several Mefarshim here hold, Schottenstein, I hear that they have one way. There are different ways to see what exactly happened.
Right.
He extinguished it while he moving it. It extinguished before he moved it. It's not clear, but it's that happen right before Shabbat in twilight, or does that happen after a couple of hours? The way that it's written, the way that I understand, it's most probably the way that you mentioned, which is that's a better rational, that it was lit on Shabbat, extinguished by itself, and then he removed it because he was holding the same as Rabbi Shimon, that is no longer muktzah mechamat mi'us, and therefore he's not holding migo, and you can carry it. Rabbi Yossi Glila, it's not Rabbi Yossi Glili, it's one of the Amoraim of Eretz Yisrael, Glila meaning from Galilee. Ikla le'atrei de Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina. He went to the place that Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina lived. Vetiltel shraga ve'ikpad Rabbi Yossi bar Rabbi Chanina. And he carried that fire, and that it's already extinguished, and Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina was unhappy with that. So, which is, you see that even Amoraim disagree with that. Again, we have here the fence of Muktzah, of set aside. So, you see here that Rabbi Yochanan hold the same as Rabbi Yehuda, and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi hold the same as Rabbi Shimon. So now we go to the next level, which is what Rabbi Abahu, that he was student of both Rabbi Yochanan and Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, what he hold. Rabbi Abahu ki ikla le'atrei the Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Now remember, this Rabbi Abahu is a student of both. Hava metaltel shraga, he moved, extinguished candle on Shabbat. Ki ata le'atrei Rabbi Yochanan lo hava metaltel shraga. When he went to Rabbi Yochanan, he did not carry it.
So he played both sides.
Well,
politician.
When he say, if this one permitted, then it's okay for me to do it when I wrong him, but when I wrong the other one, I don't do it, So it's okay because...
Well, I see it a little differently. I don't think he's looking for the way I see it is he understands that the halakha accords with Rav Shimon, but out of respect to the other rabbi, when he's in that area, he goes ahead and respects the other rabbi's rules when he's...
I think so too.
Because it is more stringent to not move it, so therefore he follows the stringency when he's in that area out of respect for that rabbi.
Please everyone.
So I don't think
one permitted,
I don't think it's so much to please. I think it's more just out of respect for the other rabbi.
Fine. I'll go along with that.
That he'll take the more stringent view when he's in that area.
I believe because if you permit me to move something, I will do it around you, but if the other one don't permit it, then I won't do.
You're permitted to move it by halakha, because the halakha is with Rav Shimon who says you can move it.
Yeah.
So therefore, it's okay to move it any time. However, out of respect to the other rabbi, when he's in his area,
he's a student
more
of both of them.
Yeah.
So he's right. So I mean, that's but he has to show respect to the teacher by being more stringent in his area.
Right. That's
the way I see it. I mean,
okay.
That's correct.
Ma nafshach. So, ik Rabbi Yehuda svira lei, leavad ki Rabbi Yehuda. Ik Rabbi Shimon svira lei, leavad ki Rabbi Shimon. So how come he went in both ways? So the Gemara explained and said, Leolam ki Rabbi Shimon svira lei. That Rabbi Abahu himself hold the same as Rabbi Shimon. And when he was attend the place of Yoshua ben Levi, he was lenient. And the reason he didn't do it in the place of Rabbi Yochanan, Mishum Kvodo de Rabbi Yochanan lo ave avi. So Rashi said,
out of deference, yeah.
Yes, that he did it out of deference, out of respect. Next.
Makes sense. I mean, because he's just acting more stringently. It's not like he's violating Rav Shimon because.
Yes, yes. Amar Rav Yehuda, Shraga de Mishcha shar letiltula. Rav Yehuda said that with regard to an extinguished oil lamp, it's permitted to move it. Then nafta, but if it's a ner, it's a candle that made out of nafta, in Hebrew we call it napta, like neft, right? So they said asur letaltela, it's prohibited to move it. Why? Because it carries a smell.
Yeah, it's very foul.
It's unpleasant. So it's used exclusively for lighting. Rabba and Rav Yosef the Amre Travayu, both. By the way, the Ramban, Rabbi Moshe ben Nachman hold that the napta, the minutes that it's over because of the odor, everybody agree that you cannot use it for other purposes. Anyway, Rabba and Rav Yosef the Amre Travayu, napta na meshar letiltula. They hold that that you can carry it. You have to see Tosfot here because they elaborate on that. Anyway, Rav Avya ikla levei Rava hava mi'isan beikarei betina. So Rava, he came to come to a Rava house, Rav Avya, and his feet were dirty with clay and put them on the bed before Rava. So Chazon Yechezkel said that it was like a special socks. But anyway, Ativei Apuria Kamei de Rava, Ikpad Rava. So Rava became angry because he is dirtying his bed. So Ba'al Etziurei. So he sought to torment here with him with questions that he could not answer. Amar lei ma'ita, Amar Rabba v'Rav Yosef damet Ravayu shraga denafta nami shar letiltulei. He said, what is the reason that Rabba and Rav Yosef both said that with regard to napta lamp, too, that is permitted to move it? Amar lei, Rav Avya said to him, Ho'il v'chazya lechasuyei bei mana. Because since it's suitable to cover a vessel with it, so therefore even the candle is not ready for use for other purposes because it's ma'us, it's disgusted. Because, but if you have some use such as cover a vessel, so it's not considered a muktzah according to Rabbi Shimon. So Rava responds and said, Ela me'ata, if that's enough in order to allow carrying, kol tzrorot shebechatzer metaltelin. So therefore, all the tzrorot, everything, all the stones in the yard, you can carry them on Shabbat. Why? Ho'il v'chazya lechasuyei beimana, because its status of this vessel, it's good to cover those utensils. So he said, Amar Lei, you cannot compare napta to those stones in the yard. Why? Ha'ika torat kli alea, hanei leka torat kli alea. He says that one is the status of vessel apply, and the other one is not apply. So it's like a raw materials. So basically, if it's a raw materials, he hold the same, Rav Ivya hold the same as Rabbi Shimon. That the minutes you use it on Shabbat and after Shabbat is allowed, is no longer under the category of Muktzah, and therefore you can carry it. It's not considering Kli shemelachto le'isu. It's not considering something that it's using this vessel, carrying them. It's prohibited unless designated for a specific purpose in advance before Shabbat. The stipler, the Kilot Yaakov, on Beitzah, the beginning of Beitzah, page 4, he has a lot of explanation of this. Milo Tanya, so Rav Ivya brought a source to what he said, why it not taught in the Braita that what? So we turn the page 46. השיירים והנזמים והטבעות הרי הן ככל הכלים הניטלים בחצר. In the 6th chapter there is a special section that speaks about women, how when they need to dress themselves with certain necklace and other beauty, there are certain things that they not supposed to do on Shabbat. The GEMARA there explained that sometimes women show to their friends what they have, etc., and sometimes they need to carry things in Reshut Rabim, which is a violation of carrying. So here it's hold to the extreme, to the stringence, that the women cannot carry all those things in the public domain on Shabbat, even in the place that you have like a yard with the walls around.
So
the
is
yard.
an enclosed courtyard considered Reshut Rabim or Carmelite?
Excellent point. Depend what is the designation and how it's made. If you made it, if you remember that we talk about all the pieces together and holding them,
right,
and designated with agreement for everyone, then it turned to be a private domain. If it's still open and it can use, for example, if you have the playground here that many entities can use, then it's different category. It's basically the same as Reshut Rabim.
But is it Carmelite or is it Reshut Rabim?
Depend the size, depend the designation.
Right. What, for the purpose of this page, what are they referring to when they say a courtyard? Are they talking about Carmelite or Reshut Rabim?
Here, the Reshut Rabim.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for asking. Okay, now, for sure, Tosfot have a lot to say. We are running out of time, so we make it short and sweet. V'amar ula mat maitam. What's the reason that it's considering muktzeh? Why they don't muktzeh? Ho'il ve'ika torat kli alea. Since the ladies have a use in a daily basis, so that's called in Hebrew derech levisha. That's the way they dress. That's the way they use it. So because that's the way they use it, it's not considering a muktzeh on Shabbat, because they carry the same category as kli, as a vessel, which means those whatever can be necklace, can be other beauty rings, whatever they have, because that's part of what they carry all the times. So what we learn from that, the Ritva said that if you have any item that carried the point of kli, of a vessel, so you can use it for shimush kal, for something light, such as, for example, a necklace. Hachanami. So here too meaning we talk about candles made out of nepta, right? So it's not considering a muktzah. Why? Ho'il ve'ika torat kli alea. Why? Because now it's considered as a vessel, because they have the status of vessel applied to it. Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Brich Rachmana. Rav Nachman said, thank God, de la ksifei Rava le Rav Avia. Thank God that Rava did not embarrass Rav Avia, and Rav Avia managed to successfully answer Rava's questions. Ramile. Rahmana is one of the name of Hashem, of God. In Arabic they use it Rahmanna el Raham el Rahim, which means that God full of compassion. They use it a lot in the Sufi literature. Anyway, Ramile Abaye le Rava. Abaye asked Rabba, Tanya, מותר השמן שבנר ובשבקערה אסור ורבי שמעון מתיר. He said whatever left in the candle, remaining that oil that was an oil lamp or in the bowl, that it's a wick was lit, is prohibited to use on Shabbat, and Rabbi Shimon permits it. So he said Alma, so therefore Rabbi Shimon late le muktzah. So it means Rabbi Shimon doesn't hold that the opinion that is a prohibited prohibition of muktzah, of set aside. Veraminu, it's a contradiction to what we said in the Tractate Beitzah in regards to there is the issue of a firstborn that have a blemish and you want to slaughter it on the holiday. The Torah said that that's another subject, that a firstborn male, it's sacred from the time it's born. So you have to give it to the Kohen. Remember, that's in Shmot, that's part of what we said after putting tefillin. The Kohen take that firstborn and he bring it to the temple, to Beit HaMikdash, as a sacrificial offering. Now, if someone take this firstborn and slaughter it outside of Beit HaMikdash, it's chayav karet. The Torah said that so shavikadov, etc. So now, if meanwhile is a blemish occurred on that firstborn, so this is already changed the status and is no longer carry the sacredness of that animal, and the Kohen allow, like behemat chulin, allowed to go ahead and slaughter that animal outside. So when you see that mum, that blemish in advance, you cannot slaughter it until someone who's expert will see it, which is a special rabbi, a special expert in that area, that he needs to see, and he needs to say that that animal really has a blemish, and therefore, after that expert said it, now you can go ahead and slaughter that outside of the Beit HaMikdash, of the temple. By the way, this halakha of firstborn apply even in our times, when the Beit HaMikdash is so far not in existence, all right? But even you cannot slaughter that animal, but the first one has the kedusha, has the sacredness of the offering, and you cannot slaughter it only if you have this something that it's considering a permanent blemish that was recognized by an expert. So usually a pure animal is not considering muktzah on a festival, because you can go ahead on festival, it's ochel nefesh, if you need to eat it, you're allowed to go ahead and slaughter on holiday. But if it's a firstborn unblemish, it's also considering a muktzah on the festival. Why? Because you are forbidden to slaughter it. So here this Mishnah, I just give you the introduction, because this Mishnah speaks about a firstborn that carry a blemish, and a sage, someone who's expert, saw it on Yom Tov, on festival, and he said that this is a permanent blemish. And now the question is, according to that view, since he considered that a permanent blemish, can you go ahead and do what? And slaughter it on Yom Tov. So they said here, Rabbi Shimon said, Kol she'ein mumo nikar me'erev Yom Tov, whatever it's not the firstborn animal whose blemish is not perceptible before the festival. It is among the animals prepared prior for the festival, me'erev Yom Tov, ein ze min ha'muchan, and it's prohibited to slaughter. So it means that the item prepared in advance and set aside status, it's muktzah according to Rabbi Shimon. That's, by the way, the opposite to what we said earlier. So the whole idea of achana, so you remember we said that he doesn't hold the Meego, but now here it's the opposite way. So how come in one place is a contradiction? One place he said that that Rabbi Shimon is lenient with muktzah, and here they said that he's not lenient with muktzah. So they said hachayasha, you cannot compare them. Why? Hatam, over there in the lighting the candles before Shabbat, Adam Yoshev, a person sit in the twilight, umetzape matai tichbe nero, a person wait and see when the candles extinguish. So, and then he can use it when it's extinguished. So therefore Rabbi Shimon hold that after the candle extinguished, then it's not considering any longer a muktzah. Even in a time of twilight, it was forbidden. Okay? Hacha. But here, in regards to a firstborn, Adam Yoshev, a person sits before Yom Tov, umetzape matai yipol bo mum. He waiting when it's a blemish took place, and then he can go ahead and eat it. Meimar amar, a person may say to himself, ooh, Mi eimar the nafil bemuma. Who assure me that is going to be blemished during the festival? V'im timatze lomar the nafil bemuma. Mi eimar the nafil be mum kavua. And even you tell me that it's going to be a blemish, who said it's going to be a permanent one? V'im timatze lomar the nafal bemum kavua. Mi eimar the mizdakek lechacham. Even even that it's a blemish, who said that an expert is going to need and look at this? So because the owner did not have any intent that this animal is going to be allowed on the festival, so therefore the same way it's Meego Datktzai, because we said that earlier it's forbidden, because in his mind it's not going to take place in such a way. It's in a way like Rabbi Akiva Iger said, it's a svek sveka, it's doubt within a doubt within a doubt, right? So therefore, even Rabbi Shimon holds that it's forbidden, right? Tosfot, by the way, have a different approach to that. Mativ Rabbi Bar Chama. Now it's a question in regard to what we respond earlier. So he brought again, this is a GEMARA that's going to study later in Daf Kuf Nun Zayin on page 157. He said, Mefirim nedarim b'Shabbat. We can annul a vow on Shabbat, but for example, the father can annul what his daughter took a vow on Shabbat. So that Mishna said that if, for example, husband hears something that the wife commit herself, and he can annul her commitment even it's on Shabbat. So they said, "V'nish'alim nedarim shen letzorech haShabbat," which means Nish'alim, meaning a person that commit himself to something, he can go before a sage, and he find a way, if there is a doubt in some area, he find a way to reconcile and give him a petach, give him a door to back off. so it's called petach. It's like something that's made by mistake. What?
Like an opening for him to
opening,
back off,
thank you. So, meaning that after the husband, for example, annul his wife vow, she can go ahead and eat that food that she committed herself not to eat. So they said, ve'amai, and they said, why on that basis? Leima, maybe you said, mi emar de mizdakek labal. Maybe you said that, who said that the husband will agree to engage in nullifying her oath? Perhaps he will refuse to nullify it, right? And so because the wife did not expecting that, so basically she have in her mind that she's not going to eat it, and therefore you may say that it remains set aside, remain muktzah, even the husband nullified it. Right? So they said here, Hatam, in regard to annul vows, Rav פינחס משמי דרבה. דאמר רב פינחס משמי דרבה, כל הנודרת על דעת בעלה היא נודרת. Women, married women, they make those vows because they have an assumption that their husband agree. So therefore, it's like an agreement that if he disagree, he can annul it when he hear that. So therefore, you cannot say the assumption that she backed off from her decision from that food. It's uncomparable. But it's still a question. Tashma nish'alim lendarim shel tzorech haShabbat בשבת. Which means you can ask a vow to annul vow if it's related to Shabbat, on Shabbat. Ve'amai, why? Leima yemar midemizdekek lechacham. Maybe it's still muktzah even after they annul the vows. Hatam, in regard to annul vows, ilo mizdekek lechacham, sagele bishlosha idiotot. Hacham yemar demizdekek lechacham. You shall know that there is a different category on vows. There are some vows that you have enough, 3 common people that annul the vows. There are certain vows that you need an expert to examine the vow and make a decision. So here they said, since who said that he needs a chacham? Because again, to annul vows there are 2 options. One is mumche, someone who's an expert, so he is very erudite in halakhot, and he can gamir v'savir, he said it, and he can annul vow independently, that expert, or 3 people that not so familiar, as long as they understand the concept, what's involved here, and they can annul. So when it's come to a firstborn, usually you need to have someone who's expert in blemishing, in animals, right? Not just a person, but you need to know someone. So how you reconcile it? You have to speak about the firstborn, that missing part of the body. So then you don't need the expert, everyone can see it. Anyway, רמי לאביי לרב יוסף, מי אמר רבי שמעון כפתה מותר לטלטלה? Who said that? Rabbi Shimon said that if it's extinguished, you're allowed to carry it. Which means, what's the issue of מוקצה מחמת מיאוס? Remember? כפתה אין, לא כפתה לא. This is as long as it's extinguished. Why? Because again, refresh our memory. The whole idea of muktzah, it's not biblical. It's rabbinic that put a decree. And the reason they put a decree, because the people basically may attempt to move it while it's lit, and then they violated one of the 39 melachot, which is extinguishing. So he said, Maitama, why we are forbidden to carry the candles while it's still lightning, right? Dilma bahade de nakit la kavta. Maybe while he carries it is extinguished. That's the source. That's the source of the problem. The only idea is shema yikaveh. Maybe he's extinguished. Hashamin le Rabbi Shimon damar davar shel mitkaven mutar. You remember that what Rabbi Shimon said, page 40, he said that if it's not in a person's intent, he allowed to do it. דתניא רבי שמעון אומר, רתם כיסיו מיטה וספסל ולבש לא התכוון לעשות חריץ. A person can carry a bed or a bench, etc., as long as he's not intent to make a hole. So the same thing you can say about candles, that you can carry it because he did not intend to extinguish. So Rav Yosef said, no, כל אחד יחמכוון איכא איסורא דאורייתא. So if it's a chance for a person who violated the biblical law, that's one thing that we are forbids. כי לא מכוון גזר רבי שמעון מדרבנן. But if it's not involved in a biblical prohibition, so, and a person did not intend to do the consequence of that work, so it's rabbinic. כל אחד מכוון איכא איסורא דרבנן, such as, for example, carry a hole in the ground, כי לא מכוון שרי, רבי שמעון לכתחילה. But if he's not intent to do it, Rabbi Shimon allow even at the first place. So let's understand.
So the prohibition against plowing, which is making a hole in the ground, is rabbinic, the Rabbanan.
Yes, but let's understand why the rabbis put the plowing. What's the issue of plowing?
Well, I mean, it's work. I mean, obviously, it's work when you plant, because then you'll plant, which is not allowed.
What's involved? So let me.
So you have to dig a hole and then you plant something.
Yeah. In our days, when people wants to hide money,
okay.
So they take down the floor, whatever it is, dig, right?
Sure.
In those days, it's all made out of sand.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have a lot of money, you want to hide it, you take a box and you dig down. So when the thief come in and you're not home, they have a hard time to find it because they need to dig the whole ground in every place to find the money, right?
So the writer would be burying the money, but the rabbinic prohibition prevents you from even getting to that point. So
yeah, but it's not just in that avenue. It's in general. Plowing, it's like creating something. Extinguished candle, it's av melacha. It's one of the 39.
Right.
But putting a plowing on the ground is kilachar yad. It happens by the way. So it means shinu. It's not the regular way. The only idea of plowing b'Shabbat that is forbidden in the biblical, it's someone did it kedarko, which means he really dig it and he put the box to put the money under the ground, right? He used special tools to dig down the ground. But if you
tools are not a bed, so the bed.
Yeah, if you have a bed or bench, etc. like that,
right.
So it's Rabbi Shimon hold that even lechatchila you can go ahead as long as you not intend to plow. Mativ Rava. So Rava asked from the Kil'aim, מוכר כסות מוכרים כדרכם ובלבד שלא יתכוון בחמה מפני החמה ובגשמים מפני הגשמים. There is a Torah prohibition of shatnez. So if you need to sell shatnez, you sell it to a non-Jews, so you can show them, in other words, one of the demonstrations need to wear them. So now the Torah forbids you to wear shatnez, mixed wool and linen, but if you sell it to non-Jews, you can go ahead and show them, right? Even let's say the prohibition of shatnez apply only when you derive joy for yourself. For example, if you want to warm yourself up, but if you show it only to show it to the customers, so that's something that the Torah did not forbid you, right? So I said v'atznuim, but people who are more scrupulous, they don't want to look like they're violating halacha. So what do? Mafshilim b'makeh la'achorehem. So they put the special hanger in the back so people see. So now we ask a question. Now we try to compare v'ahacha. In here, the chimechaven, if the seller wants to derive joy from that clothing, isur doraita ika, which is the Torah forbids to wear shatnez. Kilo mechaven sharei Rabbi Shimon lechatchila. But if he's not intent to enjoy, to derive joy from that, so Rabbi Shimon allow even lechatchila to wear these garments. So you see here, that Rabbi Shimon allowed דבר שאינו מתכוון, something that the person did not intend, even if intent was to violate a biblical violation. So he said, Ela Amar Rava said, הנח לנר שמן וכלי שתילה הואיל ונעשה בסיס לדבר האסור. Do not compare it, leave the candle, oil and wick since they become a base for the prohibited object. So even Rabbi Shimon agrees that the flame burning on Shabbat is muktzah, it's set aside. Why? Because since it's prohibited to move the flame, moving the flame, oil and wick is also prohibited. First, we learn halacha in regards to candelabrum, that it's chuliyot, that it's assembling pieces. So he said, chuliyot ben gdola ben ktana asur letaltela. It is prohibited to carry a candelabrum made of joints. The Mishnah Berurah said, whether large or small, or even if it is a new, it is prohibited by rabbinic decree to carry candelabrum on Shabbat that is grooves that create the impression, as he said, that it's made of joints. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. By the way, the Rambam in Hilchot Shabbat chapter 26 said the same thing. Another thing we learned today, and it's indirect practical halacha, which is the whole concept of taking vows. And there is a point that we basically do not involve with vows at all. But there are certain situations that people made vows. So we said that in a certain ways people can back off those vows, even on Shabbat, depend on the situation, such as if there is a vow that made with the intent, by your wife, with intent that the husband agreed, and then his realization that he disagrees, so even it's Shabbat, he can annul her vow, that it wasn't with his acquiescence.
es Hashem